Imagine you're an engineer of the Israeli Airforce in 1971. You've finally taken delivery of your brand new, state-of-the-art Spy Recon Pod called the HIAC-1, which stands for High Altitude Reconnaissance Camera. You can slap it onto your F-4Es and can now start snapping photos of Egyptian defense positions while cruising safely outside of their SAM umbrella. However, your brick of an aircraft is now even brickier, with the additional weight of 1,500 pounds or 680 kilograms of camera pod beneath, which means you're now a very appealing target for Egyptian MiG-21s, as well as their anti-air batteries you're supposed to photograph. What do you do to stay out of their effective range? Simple: outrun the missiles. This is the story of the F-4X. Following the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel faced mounting pressure and a crucial need to gather intelligence on the activities of Arab armies. At that time, the most suitable reconnaissance jet available was the RF-4 Phantom II, the latest and greatest from America. The RF-4 proved instrumental in ensuring Egypt's compliance with freezing their SAM positions. As tensions escalated and Egypt started to move their defenses and SAMs, the danger of such missions became evident. In October 1971, an RF-4 returned with a Strela missile lodged in one of its engines. This incident prompted the Israeli Airforce to shift to high-altitude reconnaissance missions. However, the built-in cameras of the RF-4 couldn't cope with the demands of those missions. This is where Israel's interest in the HIAC camera system became paramount. With its impressive capabilities, the HIAC could detect objects as small as 25 centimeters from a distance of 37 kilometers, allowing Israel to monitor their borders without crossing them. The only challenge was that the HIAC camera system could only be mounted on the RB-57F, a modified Canberra aircraft that the US refused to sell to Israel. Fortunately, General Dynamics had developed the HIAC-1 Recon Pod, which could be attached to the centerline of the RF-4. However, the added drag and weight of the pod severely limited the performance of the RF-4, putting it at risk of interception or being shot down by static anti-air defenses. This was a situation the Israelis couldn't afford for their expensive new equipment. To overcome the limitations imposed by the camera pod on the F-4 chassis, General Dynamics initiated the PeaceJack program in 1971. This program aimed to enhance the F-4's airframe and engine performance. The PeaceJack airframe featured redesigned air intakes and low-drag external saddle tanks. These tanks included water pumps for an engine pre-compressor cooling system, short PCC. The PCC's purpose was to cool the intake air and increase the overall engine mass flow. Two 2,500-pound tanks were mounted on top of the jet between the inlet ducts and the fuselage spine. The water injection system promised a theoretical thrust increase of 50%, providing approximately 120,000 newtons of thrust, with the afterburner engaged. These enhancements enabled the PeaceJack to achieve impressive speeds, dashing at Mach 3.2 and cruising at up to Mach 2.4, with a maximum flight altitude of 78,000 feet. The aircraft was provisionally identified as the F-4X. Initially, Israel was highly interested in the F-4X program due to its potential for achieving performance levels compared to the American SR-71, allowing it to fly unhindered wherever necessary. Before this point, both the highly mobile SA-6 Coupe and the extremely long-range and powerful SA-2 Guideline presented challenges to Israelis' surveillance. The F-4X's incredible flight altitude would put it safely out of their engagement envelope. However, the F-4X's extraordinary specifications also made it an appealing candidate for an interceptor, perfectly suited for shooting down Soviet MiG-25s. Furthermore, the State Department became concerned that the F-4X program would overshadow their new superfighter, the F-15 Eagle. Although this could have spelled the end of the F-4X program, Israel insisted on its continuation due to the aerodynamic drag caused by the Hayek pod. In 1974, General Dynamics made a pivotal decision to finally integrate the Hayek camera system with an elongated nose section. By replacing the camera in the nose, the AN/APQ-120 radar was displaced, eliminating the interceptor capabilities that worried the State Department. This marked the birth of the F-4X. In December 1974, an Israeli F-4E was sent to General Dynamics as a mock-up. The nose was reconstructed and the starboard side received revised variable intake ramps along with a papier-mâché coolant tank mock-up. Once more, the United States Air Force began to doubt the project, fearing its impact on the F-15 project, as well as the safety and reliability of the pre-compressor cooling system. Consequently, the USAF withdrew from the project shortly after, leaving Israel to continue alone. Unfortunately, Israel couldn't afford to pursue the project independently, leading to the quiet demise of the F-4X and F-4X programs. In the end, only 3 F-4E aircraft were upgraded with the Hayek nose camera system, with the first one making its maiden flight in December 1975. To conceal the modifications, the elongated nose section was painted black. Under this new role, the F-4s were reclassified as F-4ES, nicknamed Shablol, meaning snail. The number of missions flown or the fate of these modified aircraft remains unknown. While the F-4X was never finished, you can ask yourself if it would have even worked. While the PCC concept had already been successfully shown to work during Operation Skyburner, a top-speed record run using a very early production F-4H-1, this aircraft's top speed was only around 1,700 miles per hour, compared to the F-4X's 2,400. Perhaps this is the reason General Dynamics engineers concluded that the PCC would ultimately cause the compressor blades to expand and hit the outside of their casing, causing immediate and catastrophic damage. Ultimately, the Phantom proved to be a legendary aircraft, undergoing countless modifications by various nations. However, one particular modification could have transformed the F-4 into a formidable 21st century fighter: the Super Phantom project. But that's a topic for another discussion. So consider subscribing, and thank you for watching.